Today, we're digging into the pretty wild history hidden inside one of Korea's most famous foods. This is not just a story about barbecue, it's a story about family, about empire, and about a total radical transformation. Okay, so check this out. On one hand, you have sengu, a Korean word that basically means living mouth or even living family member. That's how farmers saw their cattle for ages. Then, on the other hand, you have jiwon, an imperial resource. This one slide really tells the entire story of Hanwoo, the Korean cow. It's a journey from being a cherished partner to becoming a strategic asset for an empire. So how did we get from Sanggu to Jawan? To really get it, we've got to go back in time. We'll start before the empire, out in the fields of old Korea, to see just how deep that bond between farmer and animal really went. And here's the thing that's so interesting. For centuries, Hanwoo weren't really about the beef. No, they were work partners. They were absolutely essential for plowing the fields, for hauling stuff around. They were so valuable, they were literally considered part of the household. You treated them with a respect that went way beyond just, livestock. You just didn't slaughter your sengu. But that centuries-old relationship, it was about to get completely turned on its head. And the force for that change didn't come from inside Korea. It came from the enormous appetite of a powerful, industrializing neighbor. So you've got Japan going through this massive modernization phase in the late 1800s and early 1900s. Its diet starts to westernize, and suddenly everyone wants beef. The military wants it, the cities want it. The problem, Japan itself had a tiny cattle population. It needed a huge, steady supply, and it needed it yesterday. So where do you look? Well, the answer was literally right next door, an agricultural country with a long, long history of raising cattle, sitting right there across the sea, the Korean Peninsula. I mean, just look at that number, 1.7 million. To an empire that's desperate for beef, this isn't just a bunch of animals. This is a gold mine, a vast, untapped resource just sitting there. And this chart, wow, it just lays it all out, doesn't it? This massive imbalance. Korea had a huge surplus of the exact thing Japan desperately needed. This wasn't just a small difference. This was a strategic opportunity that the Japanese empire was absolutely not going to ignore. And then, bam, 1910, Japan annexes Korea. And that phrase, it becomes a stark, brutal reality. A systematic transfer kicks off, with tens of thousands of Hanwoos shipped to Japan every single year to feed its soldiers and its workers. The living family member was now officially an imperial resource. But here's the thing. Japan didn't just, grab the cows and run. Oh no, their approach was way more methodical. They launched this massive, modern, and super systematic project to control, manage, and ultimately improve the Hanwoo for maximum efficiency. So let's just walk through this blueprint. This was a full-on industrial project. First, control the bloodlines by sending out what they called superior breeding bulls. Second, pump up the numbers by making it illegal to slaughter fertile cows. Third, make sure your supply is healthy with modern vets and quarantine. And finally, step 4, turn them all into a uniform product through standardization. And this timeline, it really shows you just how fast this all happened. I mean, even before the official annexation, they had quarantine laws set up to protect the Japanese market. Then they pushed for pure breeding. And then the final step in 1938, a formal written standard that laid out exactly what a proper Korean cow was supposed to be. But all this push for the perfect, efficient imperial cow, it didn't come for free. Not at all. It came at a huge and often totally forgotten biological and cultural cost. You see, before all this, Hanwoo weren't just one color. You had this incredible diversity. There were black ones, brindle ones with these cool tiger stripes, spotted ones, and a bunch of others. And this wasn't just for looks. This was genetic diversity. Different cows were adapted to different parts of the country. And then this. A single line in a government document from 1938. The colonial government officially declared that the one and only acceptable color for a pure Korean cow was reddish-brown. Just like that, with a stroke of a pen, centuries of diversity were basically made illegal. And the effect? It was just devastating. If your cow wasn't reddish-brown, it was suddenly impure. It was kicked out of breeding programs, its price dropped to nothing, and they were systematically culled. This whole policy set off a catastrophic loss of genetic diversity. But, and this is incredible, even with all this pressure from the top, you had these little acts of rebellion. Some farmers, who knew the real value of their traditional animals, secretly hid and kept breeding their black and brindle cows. It is only because of them, because of that quiet resistance, that a tiny piece of that original diversity, like the famous Jeju black Hanwoo, managed to survive it all. So, what does all this mean for the Hanwoo industry today? Well, it's not some simple story of destruction. The legacy is way more complicated and honestly kind of paradoxical. And this table just sums up the whole paradox, doesn't it? The very same systems Japan built to exploit Korea, things like modern disease control, quarantine, systematic bloodline registration, they didn't just vanish after liberation. No, they became the actual foundation for South Korea's own modern, scientific, and super successful livestock industry. And that, right there, is the heart of it. You've got this story of scientific progress that's completely tangled up with a history of colonial control and a profound biological loss. Progress and erasure, literally born from the exact same events. So, yeah, the story of this one cow shows us that even the most everyday things, the food on our plate, can carry this incredible weight. The weight of empires, of quiet resistance, and of a really, really complicated history. It makes you wonder, right? What other histories are we consuming without even knowing it?